My name is Michelle Gibson. In this video, I'm going to address the issue of the use of the word European to describe white people because there is a lot of evidence out there that this is not a given historically. King James is black or is King James white? Here are two different depictions of King James VI of Scotland and King James I of England, the King James version of the Bible King James. I believe we are seeing an example of a whitewash. I really started looking into all of this after I put together information in my grid spreadsheets after connecting the dots of cities lining up in circles around the world emanating from a star tetrahedron I found on the North American continent by connecting major cities that formed lines. In the process of extending the lines out, I found a line of cities that goes through Scotland and England. And keep in mind that the ancient civilization was aligned globally with itself and the stars. The grid spreadsheets reveal that it was unified, and there was no place on the planet that this civilization was not. It was north, south, east, and west. Several years ago, before I started connecting the dots, I read a book by Gary Biltcliffe called The Spine of Albion. I was first introduced to his work in a megalithomania presentation. He and his partner Carolyn uncovered a north-south line that connected seats of power that contained 33 nodal points, and they doused the male and female dragons of energy that crisscrossed these nodal points, which they named Belinus and Ellen. They found out a lot of interesting things as they followed the energy lines. He is an intuitive and dowser, and his journey brought him to uncovering a Cygnus alignment in the British Isles that runs from the Isle of Wight, which is shaped like a coccyx at the bottom of England, to Faraid Head at the tip of Scotland. This is a picture of Rannoch Moor in Scotland. Note the block-shaped rocks in the foreground and the pyramidal shape in the background. The moors, as they are called in Great Britain, are defined as an expanse of open, rolling, and fertile land. Here's a picture of Scales Moor in Yorkshire. So what if they are telling you about the actual human moors without actually telling you? The geographical moors I have seen pictures of are covered with massive stones and stonework. Just to let you know, this picture of King George III of England is out there on the internet. You know, the American Revolution King George. And this is his wife, Queen Charlotte, who is acknowledged to be a Moor. There is also this picture of Holy Roman Emperor Charles V out there in cyberspace. Here are comparison photos of Grzybowski Castle in Poland, completed in 1292, with Chateau Frontenac in Quebec City, said to be built for the Canadian Pacific Railway and opened in 1893. Not an exact match, but I see enough similarity to scratch my head and make me wonder, especially since I have been studying this subject for a while. Once I really understood who built all the castles and other buildings, I see the same architectural features in very different places and building types. And if you don't think there are castles in the United States, think again. I will do a separate video on this, but here's a nice example. Belvedere Castle in Central Park. In the foreground you have an ancient stonework. In the middle, Belvedere Castle, and in the background you have a building that looks like a Moorish architectural style. But you may say someone built the castle in 1869. I think the castle was there long before 1869, and they just make up stories and put plaques on these castles. Back to European royalty. I learned a lot from Peter Moon, and also from UFO teacher Rick Smith. Both men bring in a lot of information about the Moors. I bring this up because I learned from Peter Moon that King Roger II of Sicily was a Moor. His royal mantle was used in the coronation ceremonies of the Holy Roman Emperors. It is in the imperial treasury in Vienna, Austria. The mantle is covered with Islamic imagery and symbolism, and has the Hegira date written on it. Why are the Christian emperors we learn about in school over the centuries being coordinated with a cloak with clear Islamic references? As a matter of fact, I see an element of doubt in this golden bust that Frederick Barbarossa, which means Redbeard, was as advertised in school. Check out his hair. Looks really curly to me. Now let's take a comparative look at architecture in Palermo, Sicily, and architecture in Morocco. Not exactly the same, but can we agree on similar? I would also like to point out that there is an alignment that passes through Sicily, through Messina, Mount Etna, and Catania. The alignment starts in San Francisco and passes through the Gilbert Islands, the Caroline Islands, the Philippines, the Gulf of Tonkin, Myanmar, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran, Turkey, Greece, the Aegean Sea, Sicily, Malta, Tunisia, Algeria, Mauritania, the Cape Verde Islands, and more countries. I was in the U.S. Army stationed in Augsburg, Germany from 1983 to 1985. I was pleased to have a European duty station as I loved European history, and when I was there sought to learn as much as I could about where I was. I had purchased a big picture book about Augsburg with the most famous historical places of interest. So I knew then that the Augsburg Cathedral had the oldest stained glass windows in the world and that they had been taken into safekeeping during World War II. It wasn't until a couple of months ago, when I was watching a video, that it was brought to my attention that the figures depicted on the stained glass windows of a Christian cathedral were black. There are black Madonnas in monasteries throughout Europe. Here are a couple of examples, like in Montserrat, Spain. The monastery sits on Montserrat near Barcelona, and the stones surrounding it are typical of an ancient infrastructure site. This location also sits on a long-distance alignment, and I know from Gary Biltcliffe's work that it is the same Bolinas line that goes through Spain and France before it enters England. This is the Benedictine Abbey and Church at Einsiedeln, Switzerland. In addition to the presence of a black Madonna and child, the architecture of this monastery in Switzerland has characteristic Moorish signatures of onion domes, massive size, and building facade ornamentation. And how many of you have seen a picture of the Matterhorn in Switzerland? It bears a striking similarity to a pyramid, does it not? This is Saint Maurice, also known as Moritz, patron saint of Germany. The story goes he was an Egyptian and commander of the Theban legion in the Roman army that came to clear the St. Bernard Pass in Switzerland around 287 AD, where he took a stand against the Emperor Maximian and refused an order to attack fellow Christians, and he and his legion were ultimately killed. He became patron saint of the Holy Roman Emperors in 926 AD. Just leaving this here for consideration in light of everything else I am saying in this video. There is more information out there to support what I am saying. With the internet, all you really have to do is start looking in this direction, and you will find plenty of evidence that the European and world history we have been taught is far different from the actual history. These videos are being made from my blog posts at piercingtheveilofillusion.com, revealing what is hidden right in front of our eyes.